Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Jabba for Noobs. I've been getting a lot of requests on this, and I've always meant to do it. I'm going to do the demonstration on my GoTanks account because I have him now, and I do have a weaker Jabba, so it might be more difficult to beat people and might be a better chance for demonstrations. But I'm going over the kits and everything on my main account and my mods, because that's where I actually have mods as resources. So today we're going to be talking about abilities, all the kits, a Zeta Order, some Omicrons, Relic Order, my mods on characters. We're going to look at, so we'll get a GG's mods on characters, a general list of who's going to beat them easily, what they beat, and then finally a demonstration. So to begin, we're going to be looking at the big guy's kit himself, which will take a while, because he has the most abilities in the whole game. It's 9 abilities. 2 of them we don't really have to look at all. Large character just means he's a big fat so that has to go in the back. Galactic Legend, everyone has that, but he's also a bounty hunter, so he has a payout, leading to the excessive amount of abilities. But we're going to start in the middle here with his leadership, the most impactful one. So we're going to be looking at it without the Zeta and then look at the Zeta. So without the Zeta, just the standard stat boost that most Galactic Legends start with. Hut Cartel, Bounty Hunter, and Smuggler allies have plus 30 speed, 30% mastery, 30% health, and damage Hut Cartel receives is decreased by 30%. The theme you're going to see is rewarding Hut Cartel. He can go with Smugglers that aren't Hut Cartel or Bounty Hunters and all of that, but you are very much rewarded among the whole team for having all Hut Cartel. At the start of the battle, other Hut Cartel allies gain a stack of My Kind of Scum for each of the 3 categories: BH, HC, and Smuggler. Can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented, so that's going to be 5 stacks on everybody. He's immune to taunt effects and can't be targeted during enemy turns. And I think My Kind of Scum is somewhere. And it's actually in Boushh's kit. Plus 10% max health and defense for what it's worth. So yeah, My Kind of Scum is going to play into Jabba's kit in a few different places. It turns on the untargetability of Jabba. Here's a clause about his ult charge. 3% ult when an ally starts their turn. Hut Cartel or one of the people with My Kind of Scum starts their turn, and if they use a special, they also get 3. So a turn that they're going to use their special, they'll get 6. And then if they defeat an enemy while they have My Kind of Scum, Jabba gets 6% ult charge. While enemies are inflicted with thermal detonator, their health and protection recovery effects are reduced by 50%. So way less healing. And then at the start of each encounter, just think of encounter as wave. So this is for like TB and Smuggler's Run 2, anything that has multiple waves. Cartel and Co. gain crit damage up, damage immunity, and offense up for 2 turns. Damage immunity is especially helpful. Can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. And the Zeta is actually activating his contract. He has an ability for his payout, but his contract is in the lead, and that is the Zeta. While buffed with My Kind of Scum, deal damage with an attack to enemies with thermal detonators 20 times. So damage enemies with thermals while you have My Kind of Scum 20 times. And you will notice in TB, if you don't have My Kind of Scum on anybody, maybe everyone died and they come back the next wave, they don't have it, you're not going to get anywhere on his contract. Can be contributed to by more than just bounty hunters. Hut Cartel and Smugglers can do it too. The reward is increased defense, penetration, offense, and potency, 25%. And then My Kind of Scum, allies have 55% mastery for each stack, so it's a max of 275%. And they recover 20% protection at the start of their turn. Now for his unique, at the start of each encounter, Hut Cartel allies have their cooldowns reset, and they're revived with health at 6% health and protection. So this is nice in TB. It's Smuggler's Run 2. If anyone dies, they come back the next wave, and they can't be hurt because they have damage immunity. So very nice. He ignores taunt effects during his turn, and he dispels stealth from everyone at the start of his turn. Whenever a Hut Cartel ally is stunned, they dispel and get offense up for 2 turns. So they're not immune to stun. They dispel it. So if you have a locked stun, like Sprinkler or Kylo's Poke, they will stay stunned. But if it's not locked, they're going to get rid of it. So they're half immune to stun. If he's not in the allied leader slot, allies can't gain bonus turn meter. So I think this means if you're not using him as a lead, no one's going to gain turn meter. I don't know why, what kind of cheese that shuts off, but I'm sure that's why it's there. If Jabba is in the allied leader slot whenever an enemy with less than 100% turn meter gains bonus turn meter, so it's not punishing you for the overflow, Hut Cartel allies gain 7% turn meter once per turn. And if an ally loses turn meter, they gain bonus protection 20% until the start of the next turn. So not super long, unique. The Zeta part is this last clause about the punishing enemies for getting turn meter and punishing them for taking away your turn meter. And for his unique galactic legend, the same as any GL, reduced damage from percent health effects, extra 10% max health and max protection per relic level, and reduced damage by 30%. That's a Zeta here. It's going to be high priority unless he's stuck under gear 13. I probably wouldn't recommend it super early. His payout, this is just for him specifically. He gains 40% mastery, and all his ult gains are doubled for the rest of the battle. So you really want to get that contract off. It's going to make everything else easier, really speed up the mastery, not only for the full speed up the ult gain, not only for the first ult, but for the rest of the battle afterwards. Now for his actual moves, let's start with the basic. That's one of the more simple ones. Without the Zeta, call the other weakest Hut Cartel ally to assist, just Hut Cartel, not Bounty Hunter or Smuggler, doing 10% more damage for each Hut Cartel ally. See? Rewarding Hut Cartel. Bounty Hunter and Smuggler allies gain protection up 10% for 2 turns. So that's all of them gain that for 2 turns, but only a Hut Cartel is going to assist. With the Zeta, during his turn he inflicts blind, gains 6% ult charge, and the weakest Hut Cartel ally recovers 30% protection. Hut Cartel allies gain protection up 30% for 2 turns. So a good means of keeping survivability up on the team. And now for his 2 specials, it depends which one you want to start with. I tend to start with Crumb's Revenge. It's a dispel and it lands a bunch of thermals. Dispel all buffs on target enemy and does buff immunity for 2 turns. Can't be dispelled. I think it can be resisted. It doesn't off, or maybe it can't be resisted. It doesn't. I don't think I ever remember seeing it get resisted, but it can't be dispelled. It's a locked buff, debuff. Inflicts a thermal on all enemies for 2 turns, and then an additional thermal for every 20% ult charge that Jabba has. And even if you don't have ult on Jabba, this seems to stack in PvE, like Territory Battle and Smuggler's Run 2. Whenever a thermal detonator from the ability expires, all Bounty Hunter Hut Cartel Smugglers gain 2% mastery to the end of the encounter. It can't be resisted. So it's not all thermals expiring. It's not Boushh's thermals. It's just the thermals from Jabba. So you could stack up pretty high if you have the battle go long enough. Crime Lord, this is a dispel. I tend to hold this and save it for the second turn. So 1, you can get out thermals right away and help start your contract right away, but 2, just save this as the dispel. Dispel all debuffs, inflict speed down for 2 turns on all enemies. That's kind of nice for conquest, actually. I think speed down comes into play a lot. Other Bounty Hunter, Hut Cartel, and Smuggler allies gain heightened muscle for 2 turns. Can't be copied, which is 30% tenacity and immune to daze and fear. Pretty handy. It also provides a variety of effects, both while you have it and while it's dispelled while you have it. Attackers attack once per turn when another ally uses any ability. So if they do a basic on their turn, attackers will assist. They do 70% less damage though, but Boushh doing a thermal is pretty nice. Tanks are immune to crits. Healers and supports recover health and protection on a hit. And then when it's expired, Bounty Hunters, so it's not by the classification, it's by the faction. They gain defense penetration up for 2 turns. Smugglers gain speed up for 2 turns. Hut Cartel gain advantage for 2 turns. So a lot of stuff happening there. But like I said, I prefer to start with getting the thermal out to jumpstart the payout, the contract. And then his ult. You need a full 100% to do it. Basically, it's going to be an insta-kill. The way you get ult charge is allies taking turns using specials, Jabba using his basic, and allies defeating enemies. So all that charges up. On a normal enemy, non-GL or non-raid boss, it's an insta-kill, perma-kill. They can't come back, but then all of his applicable allies recover full health and protection and 50% turn meter. So very nice ult. It's not just about the insta-kill. It is a very nice support function. But on GLs, it does a lot too. It dispels buffs, which is not doing it on a normal character because you don't need to dispel buffs on a character that's dead. Inflict armor shred. Deal true damage to target enemy. Stun all enemies for 1 turn, which can't be resisted. That's something I actually forget frequently because I tend not to use the ult on the Galactic Legend if I can kill a non-Galactic Legend. And most people do that too. But you are going to have an irresistible stun on everyone else if you attack the GL. And then a raid boss is... We are not going back to crate, so I don't see why it matters. But that is Jabba's kit. Lots about Hot Cartel, lots about thermals. His ult is great, just fantastic. So after 10 minutes of just Jabba, let's talk about, in my opinion, his most important ally, Boushh. Even though from the movies it doesn't make sense. I did not give her rate Omicron. I'm glad I didn't. But let's start with this unique OBGYN cloak. I don't know. Boushh in light side smuggler allies gain 5% armor penetration, 50% offense, 10% potency, and 10 speed. Lots of little buffs. If the ally in the latest Hut Cartel and light side smuggler allies are immune to ability block and stun, and these bonuses are doubled. Light side smuggler allies gain 20% crit chance. That's nice. That's her and Skiff mainly on the team. Her better unique, I think, is Fearless. This is where her Zeta is. So we'll talk about the Zeta after the rest of the ability. Just adds on some in the middle. So without the Zeta, Boushh is immune to fear. She gains 1 stack of my kind of scum until the end of the battle. Even without Jabba's help, can't be dispelled. At the start of the encounter, all enemies gain deadly bluff for 3 turns. That's not going to matter too much unless you have the Zeta. It's going to do something, but it's not going to be as much. At the end of each turn, if an enemy with deadly bluff was inflicted with thermals, they inflict an additional thermal for 2 turns. So that is some extra thermals without the Zeta. While allies were Hut Cartel, enemies with deadly bluff and thermals lose 25 speed. The ally in the leader's supply is Hut Cartel and not a GL. She's immune to Terminator manipulation. So that does not apply to the team we're talking about. And then the My Kind of Scum, she introduced it. Deadly bluff. What the Zeta does, she will assist once per turn whenever another Hut Cartel ally uses an ability targeting someone deadly bluff. And then if all allies were Hut Cartel, see, you want all Hut Cartel, enemies with deadly bluff can't attack out of turn. They can't counter. They can't assist. So that is pretty nice. For some reason I thought they could counter, but they couldn't assist, but I can't do any attacks out of turn. And her payout, just in Omega, so we'll look at all of it. Inflict 3 thermals for 2 turns on all enemies. Her special and her basic receive 1 additional thermal until the end of the battle on their abilities, and then if all allies were Hut Cartel, her cooldown is reset, and the max cooldown is reduced by 1. We're not going to look at her lead. Don't really care about that. And she has some nice, simple abilities. Well, the special is simple. Basically, it blows up all the thermals. Inflicts another thermal for 2 turns, but with the contract, you're going to get 2. So you typically want to save that. You don't want to start with it. That's why I also like to start with Jabba's throwing his thermal, because we get thermals on everyone. So everyone's a target to boost up contract. And we don't have to waste inventive right away to get thermals on everybody. But her basic is going to come into play a lot. She assists a lot. She just attacks in general very much. Deals special damage to target enemy. Inflict a thermal for 2 turns. Leader's Hut Cartel, which is Jabba, can't be evaded. The ally is Bounty Hunter, which is Jabba. Inflict defense down for 2 turns. This would also happen under like Boba Fett, for example. If it's Boushh's turn and the ally in the leader's slot is a smuggler, attack again. So definitely typically what I'd recommend starting with her basic and save inventive to blow up when there's lots of bombs. But yeah, she just assists a ton. Deadly bluff is super valuable. This is going to be a high priority Zeta, and I'll talk about the Zeta Order in a little bit, but Boushh, fantastic. Next up, the second most important ally, but the core 3, it's Jabba, Krrsantan, and Boushh. Krrsantan is your tank. I do have mine at R9, by the way. He's a really good tank. But he is very locked behind everyone being Hut Cartel. So level 7 on his unique is the Zeta. So let's look at level 6. At the start of the battle, he gains 30% defense and max health. Whenever he loses taunt, he recovers some health and protection. Then the rest of it's locked behind all Hut Cartel. So he's not great on Afra, even though she has calls out to him. If all allies were Hut Cartel at the start of the battle, at the start of each encounter, he taunts, gains speed up for 2 turns. I don't think he really needs the speed up, honestly, but he gets it. Whenever he loses taunt, he gains it for 1 turn if the ally in the leader's slot has more than 50% protection, which Jabba typically does because you can't target him. And the first time he's defeated, he revives with 60% health and protection at the end of the enemy leader's turn. I actually lost a couple banners because he died. I got a kill with Jabba and he didn't come back. So that does matter, that distinction. At the end of the turn. Leadership ability, we don't really care. The Zeta, Dismember no longer starts on cooldown, and its cooldown is reset at the start of each encounter. So we'll look at Dismember in a little bit. I'm going to go over the Omicrons after everyone else's kit. His payout, he gains 50% crit avoidance till the end of the battle, but if he has my kind of scum, I think he's immune to crits anyway. So dispelling that is a high priority if you're facing Jabba. He taunts for 2 turns and recovers health protection when he gets his payout. If the allied leader is Jabba, he also gains damage immunity for 2 turns, 30% tenacity. So that's really nice. Getting the payout both heals him a lot and makes him immune to damage. Dismember, this is his big, more impactful ability compared to the other one. He deals disarm for 2 turns until he's defeated, and remove it from all other enemies. This debuff can't be copied. So if he dies, it'll go away at 2 turns. Starts on cooldown. Disarm is minus 50% crit damage and offense. Doesn't stack with crit damage down or offense down, unfortunately, but that would be 100% offense gone. Whenever he uses a basic, they gain damage over time for 2 turns. If all allies are hot cartel at the start of the battle, increase our target enemies and cooldowns by 1. Can't be resisted. Very nice. If he's taunting, inflict ability block for 2 turns, and he gains 50% max health. I do recommend having him more protection, but having extra max health is always nice. And then disarm instead lasts till the end of the encounter or until he's defeated. I guess that part is in it's not a Zeta, it's in his Omega ability. His other special, deal physical damage to target enemy. This kind of is throwing up a taunt, covering some health and protection, getting defense up. If the ally in the lead is Jabba, which it is, in this case, gain protection at 50% for 2 turns and recover 5% health and protection for each other hot cartel ally. So he's going to heal quite a bit more to get some protection up. Knuckle Duster, deal physical to damage enemy and inflict potency down for 2 turns and 10% chance of shock unless all allies were hot cartel, in which case he does inflict shock and evasion down. So 10% chance, he really gets nerfed if not all allies are hot cartel. Really not an effective tank outside of a Jabba team, or if it's just all hot cartel. So yeah, he is basically a brick wall. I don't really care too much about him taking turns. Dismember is nice, but mostly he's there just to soak up damage. Skiff Lando. He is someone that gets cut a lot when people want to put in a, kind of a gimmicky character or a fad character. But I still think he's very good. So his abilities are kind of cycle around this buff Hutt's favor. But he just has one unique. He has a simpler kit than the other two because he's not a bounty hunter. He doesn't have a payout. He has plus 15% defense penetration. Defense penetration is a big theme throughout his kit. Allies with any stacks of deep cover have 15% defense penetration and 30% potency. At the start of his turn, he gains a stack of deep cover, max 5. But if all allies were hot cartel at the start of the battle, he gains 5 stacks right away. And while he has 5 stacks, he gains Hutt's favor. This is the granted ability with a picture of Bib Fortuna on the right. If he uses it, deal physical damage, consume all his deep cover. Does 3% of his target's max health per debuff on them. So it does a lot more when there's a lot of thermals. So just be selective with who you're using it on. He gains a stack of Trusted Agent, which is a locked buff. Trusted Agent gets 30% defense penetration and offense per stack. So when you have a lot of stacks, it's a lot of extra damage. But more importantly, if you have at least one, he double basics, and that includes assists. That's why I get annoyed sometimes. He just shoots, he puts it in his pocket, he shoots again, but it does a lot. His special, this is where his Zeta is. Dispel all debuffs on target ally. Grant stacks of deep cover. If he has a Zeta, they're going to get a bonus turn. If target other allies hot cartel, they get retribution, speed up for 2 turns. If they're dark side, they get defense up and health up. If they're light side, they get potency up and stealth. So you can hide Boushh, or you can hide another light side ally. Typically, it's just him and Boushh. But you could call a target ally to assist, and then they get a bonus turn as long as you have the Zeta. Vibro Axe, basically a damage vehicle, and also armor shred if he has 5 stacks of deep cover. So there is a choice to be made on whether to use the granted ability and get his double tap, or if you want to inflict armor shred. you could hold on to those because it's not going to dispel all the deep cover when you use it. But it gains 10% defense penetration, 20% offense per stack of deep cover. So it is really more effective when you have all 5. Then his basic, he gains the deep cover, the aforementioned deep cover for the rest of the battle. He's going to attack again if he has Hutt's favor or whatever it's called. Or trusted agent. He's going to attack again, but he does really good damage. You mark him for damage, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, he's the 4th man on the team. And last, and arguably not least, we have Embo. So Embo you don't have when you farm Jabba. So he is an add-on. So I'll also try to go over Boushh, but he is pretty optimal as long as you have his Zeta. I'd say if you don't have the Zeta, he's not the best. And he does have an Omicron that is going to play into territory war, so we'll talk about that in a second. But his Zeta is simply he can't be crit. Without this, he's pretty flimsy and dies pretty fast, and I'd argue you don't want him. So without the Zeta, we're going to go with the Zeta. While Embo has protection, he gains 30% offense, while he has no protection, he gets 30% crit chance. Whenever he receives damage from an enemy as attack, if he has no protection, he gets foresight. So you'll notice this a lot when you're facing Jabba, that he is one of the annoying ones to kill because you can't crit him and he keeps getting foresight. So it's pretty annoying. We don't care about his leadership for this case. And his payout is he takes a bonus turn after scoring a critical hit, but you can't get consecutive ones. So he's really good for charging Jabba's ult after you get payout. You do a special or even a basic crit, you get a second attack. He also gets the gained ability Elusive Strikes. He deals physical damage and recovers protection equal to the amount of damage dealt. Ignores protection. That is important because his normal special removes 35% or loses 50% of his protection. Deals damage based on with bonus damage based on 35% of his max protection, and then he loses protection. So you can get it back with that second granted special. So all about back and forth on his own protection. And then the basic, which I think is one of the most valuable things on him, it's so simple and beautiful. Dispel all buffs and deal physical damage. So it's just a dispel on a basic, which is always a valuable thing. He assists quite a lot, and it's just great to have. So that's Embo, short and sweet and simple. And then the option, Boba, we are going to get as you unlock Jabba, and he's the one I use on the GoTanks account, so you'll see that. It's just good old Boba Fett. Bounty Hunter's Resolve. He's got an old kit, so it's nice and simple. This is his unique. Whenever he defeats an enemy and starts the encounter, he recovers 100% protection and gains Bounty Hunter's Resolve. The recover 100% protection on a finishing blow is his Zeta. Bounty Hunter's Resolve. This is the first instance of it, just ignoring taunts, and you get a revive. So that's nice that he has the revive. His payout is he gets a bonus turn, and this was confusing to me at the start of the crate raid because Jabba automatically completes payouts for people in raids, and he gets a bonus turn for the rest of the battle. Gets 50 speed and additional defense penetration equal to 100% of his defense penetration. It's pretty nice for damage. His abilities, I like the AoE. It's a AoE ability block 80% on all enemies and a 50% chance to do it damage over time for 2 turns, and then just straight up 100% chance to inflict ability block on selected target for 2 turns. So everyone gets it for 1 turn, 80% chance, but guaranteed attempt to land it on the target enemy. So very nice. Also, execute is quite valuable. Deal physical damage to target enemy, dispel all buffs and debuffs. Deal 30% more damage for each effect dispelled. Can't be revived if you kill them with this way. And he reduces cooldowns by 1 if you do get a finishing blow. Otherwise, inflict healing immunity for 2 turns if he doesn't kill them. So this stacks up pretty high. The only downside, you're not going to get extra damage for all those thermals because they're locked debuffs. And there's basic. Deal damage with a 50% chance to attack again. 100% against scoundrels. So that's actually something I had no idea about. Each attack has 70% chance for damage over time. So he's just pretty good with damage. He has an extra life. He ignores taunts. And has a chance for very big damage if they have a lot of buffs or debuffs. Now for the Zeta Order, and then I'll talk about Relic Order, then I'll talk about Omicrons. I think the Zeta Order is kind of tricky. What I'd say, while you're farming Jabba, I'd recommend trying to get Boushh's first while you don't have him, because that's going to be super important. Preventing attacks out of turn is super valuable, because all of Jabba's are very important, but they're kind of, I don't know, there's a competition among themselves. The rest of the Zetas, I think, can go after most of Jabba's. I'd say start with his leadership, because that's going to actually add his contract. And that does a ton of boosts for the whole team. Bounty Hunter contracts are extremely important. And for the second one, I'd either go with Unique. This is all the turn meter manipulation, so punishing them for gaining turn meter your enemies or removing your turn meter. That's very important. Or I'd go with Crumb's Revenge. So these are kind of 2 and 3. This is the one that adds the buff Dispel, adds the buff immunity, and adds all the thermals, which is going to help get you to contract faster. Galactic Legend, honestly, this is like the one GL. You can really wait on it. You could push it even till like 5 or 6. So I don't think it's a huge priority, because as long as you have a decent Krrsantan, decent modding, if you're down to the only way they're going to get to Jabba is if everyone else is dead, and by that point you're kind of toast anyway, unless he has an ult waiting. There's one enemy left and it's waves or something. So you can kind of push that back if you want. The next 2, Crime Boss, these are kind of a toss-up for 4 and 5 and 6, honestly. So the basic, you're going to get the ult charge. If you don't have the ult yet, this one you can really push back. So it's like recovery, it's the blind, it's mostly everything good about it. I'd say if you don't have ult, you can push that back. But if you get ult and then you still are lacking in Zetas, I'd go for probably the basic over this first special. This is just all the bonuses when they lose Hired Muscle. So you're still going to get all the bonuses from having Hired Muscle, just not from losing it. So that's one that and Galactic Legend I probably have as the lowest priorities for Jabba. Arguably, you could go for this Zeta before Jabba's special or Galactic Legend. This is granting a bonus turn, really helps you keep the enemy on the back foot and keep yourself going. Very important. Krrsantan's Zeta, Dismember no longer starts on cooldown. I think it's one you can probably push back to the very end, along with like Galactic Legend and like Jabba's other special is definitely a higher priority than that. And I'd also say Embo's Zeta is a higher priority. Just not being able to critical hit. But this is assuming you have Embo. If you're using Boba, I don't think you need Boba's Zeta recovering protection, because he's going to get protection recovery from Jabba's kid anyway. So, yeah, that's the Zeta Order. For Relic Order, it doesn't really matter as much because they're all in Relics. I'd say for high Relics, that order, I'd go with Krrsantan first, then Boushh, or Krrsantan first, matching with Jabba. And at this point, I think the only reason to go for really high relics is for TB. I have R8 on most of the team except for Embo. And that was for the raid, the crate raid when it came out. We're not really doing that anymore, and it's for TB. Now for TB and for the raid, I used Boba because I didn't want to take Embo to Relic 8. But if you're doing it just for TB, there's a lot of substitutes you can have. I'd go for Krrsantan, then Jabba himself to actually be eligible to do those later missions, and then Boushh third. Skiff probably wouldn't get him super high on relics, but it's kind of a toss-up. They actually work pretty well, even at just like Relic 5 if you leave them there, so I don't think it's a huge arms race for the team. Now for the Omicrons, I'm no expert on the TW Omicrons, but I will say Embo's is better. Krrsantan's Omicron is decent, it's okay, but it's ultimately pretty skippable. However, I do have it on my GoTanks account because there are just not too many Omicrons on the teams I currently have access to. I might regret that eventually, but it gets extra 40% max protection, enemies lose 30% potency, and then if all allies are Heart Cartel, Krrsantan is immune to ability block, cooldown increase, and then the first time the ally in the leader slot falls below half health, he taunts for 2 turns, and the ally in the leader slot recovers some protection. That part's not that important because, I don't know, usually Jabba isn't getting hit too much if Krrsantan is still there. And then Embo's, the Omicron, which I do not have, is all bounty hunter allies gain 40% max protection, so that's like everyone on the team except Skiff. At the end of his turn, they recover protection equal to 25% of his max protection, doubled for himself. And then while he has protection, bounty hunter allies gain 3% defense and 5% turn meter when a bounty hunter ally receives damage while debuffed. So that's just a lot of boosts to a territory war team. And right now I am stocking up for probably to cost us. That's why I have a bunch. But that is typically more sought after than Skiffs. Skiffs is allies with deep cover gain additional 10% defense penetration, 20% potency, and 20 speed. When he gains a stack of deep cover, he grants 1 stack of deep cover to a random ally who doesn't have it. So it's okay. It's kind of like on par with Krrsantan and GAC. It's like, sure, I mean, if you have unlimited Omicrons, it's nice to have, but not a huge priority. So I'd say for a generalist, number 1, number 2, number 3. For me, I only have the Krrsantan because I'm big on GAC Omicrons. But yeah, that's the order for there. Now let's talk about mods. I'm a little nervous to do this part because I don't have high confidence in my own mods, but this is what I have. I haven't changed it prior to the video. So for Jabba himself, I think that's actually pretty good speed. 196 speed. I really tried to only primarily focus on speed. I don't have much potency, which I probably should, but not much extra. I think the focus I had was on extra health, speed. He's got a little bit of tenacity. Damage does not matter. Armor, you know, kind of just token armor. For that, I have a health, 25 speed. So that's actually pretty good. For Krrsantan, so I would say I definitely don't have proper. I don't have much speed at all, which I don't think is a big deal. And I do have a lot of protection, which I think it is good, but I don't have much tenacity. So that's probably improper for what I have for Krrsantan, and basically nothing poured into damage. Boushh, I think I probably have relatively decent mods on her, except maybe that one probably needs to be sliced. Plus 147 speed for 332. I guess a little bit of health. Some extra potency. No crit damage. Not really much offense. So on the cross, I have potency and 18 speed. Health there. And potency as the secondary set. Skiff. I think I've really neglected my Skiff. Yeah, 93 speed only. Crit damage. Offense focus 2. Not really focus on survivability, but I know I have just taken good mods away from him until he has just nothing left. Like, I don't even know how I sliced this one. It's just not pretty for my Skiff. So I probably will re-mod him in some of these after this point. Embo, I have crit damage and crit chance. 95 speed, not a ton. He's pretty squishy, but I do have crit damage triangle. A little bit of offense. I have health. He probably wants protection, but this one also has like 10% protection, so that's all right. Yeah, so, it's just sad. I think I just completely neglect my side characters for Jabba, so don't do what I do there. And now for the crowdsourced mods on Jabba, we got pretty much what I had: speed and health, used by 75% of players. Some people put tenacity in there, but yeah, speed on the arrow, pretty dominant. Health, pretty dominant on the triangle. Health, very dominant on the circle. And pretty even split between health and tenacity on the cross. So I guess I'm not too bad on the Jabba front. Boushh, speed and potency. So just what I have. That's used by 35% of the top players. And then a mix are using speed and health. Some people are going for damage, which I think most of our damage comes from the thermals themselves. So I don't think you really need to focus on the offense mods on her in particular. Speed, you want to take in a lot of turns. Crit damage and offense, nice for extra damage. I probably need crit damage on mine. Most people are doing that. I just have survivability. Health is more popular than protection, because overall they're getting a lot of protection up on the team. Offense and potency. I really think this. I disagree with this. I think you need more potency on her because she's really landing a lot of thermals. Krrsantan, like I said, lots of tenacity. 41% of players use tenacity in varying degrees. I think this is more mine, like health and protection combined. Well, protection, arrow, just want to stack up the protection on him. Very few people are using speed. You don't really care about his turns. Protection, which do I have a speed arrow on him? No, I have protection. Okay, I'm good. I am safe there. Protection on the triangle, protection on the circle, tenacity on the cross, just because you can't have tenacity on any of the others. I have protection on mine, but again, pretty important to have tenacity. He has a lot of protection anyway, so I will admit I have bad modding there. I just am very shallow on tenacity mods. Skiff. Looks like people are mainly going for damage. 45% have offense and crit chance, 15% offense and health. Only 7% or like 10% are having speed sets. Although you do want the speed arrow. You want crit damage or offense on the triangle. Kind of even money on the circle, not a big deal either way. And offense on the cross. Embo, crit damage and crit chance just like I have. I think I just copied all this. A lot of people have speed, but a lot of people are putting a lot of protection. And this is where I haven't matched as closely. I do like that I have crit damage on his triangle because he does really get his damage up. But the protection, a lot of these players you got to think are using the Omicron. I don't have the Omicron. That puts a lot of extra bonus or benefit into protection, and that's why people are modding it for the protection. And I got to pull up Boba. And I think most endgame players that do use Boba are going to use him with Jabba if they do use him. Most people are using crit damage and crit chance. That's 41%. 12% of crit damage and potency. So a lot of people are just doing crit damage. Very popular. Speed on the arrow, crit damage on the triangle, or a little bit of offense. People are using more dominant protection. It's not a huge difference, but and then offense or potency are competing for tops on the cross. So I do think in general all these mods that people are using are pretty good guidelines. So the crowdsourcing is probably what I go with over my own modding. Now to talk about what they beat on offense at GAC, focusing on 5v5. Icons are kind of wonky right now, but I have selected the first 4 leagues, all divisions, for who they beat. And then for counters to them, I've taken out Kyber because I'm trying to accept Datacrons from that equation. Now, who they beat, they're not really known as a very offensive GL. They're decent in mirrors because it is a lot about your own control. The control of the team is important, so you'll have an advantage there. Oh, and if you start with throwing the bomb in a mirror, you're pretty much in a much better position, especially if you put it on Krrsantan. They can beat JMK, but it's not automatic. They're good against these kind of A tier, S tier, non-GL teams like Malgus, Balin, especially when there's one big bad tank you need to take down. They're pretty good for that. Gas, you can insta-kill him without taking down the clones, so it's nice. All these kind of, secondary teams. Reva, decent chance. Leia can work. It's kind of iffy. Gungans, it's pretty iffy, honestly. Other GLs. JML, pretty easy. Supreme Leader Kylo, this doesn't have Darkside Rey, so I probably wouldn't try to get Supreme Leader Kylo. Rey, this is a weird lineup because you don't have Ben in there, but Jabba can beat Rey. It's a bit of a dance. You have to toe the line between Rey and Ben, especially because you can't determine exactly where things are going to go with all the thermals. Typically, it'll always trigger a damage immunity, so you got to be careful with that and watch the instant defeat immunity. I don't want that. Thank you. But yeah, they're not like super useful on offense. Queen Amidala, pretty good win rate. Saw even with Luthen. But again, this is outside of Kyber. I was just trying to exclude this isn't Kyber. Trying to exclude Datacrons, but they do have a good Datacron right now, Cartel this season, so I take it with a grain of salt. What beats them? This, I took out Kyber because in Kyber right now, there's an Afro-focused Datacron, which really just demoralizes Jabba. And outside of Kyber, less people are having that. So, a pretty good counter is Supreme Leader Kylo, especially if you have Darkside Rey. That gets it up to 90%, and then it's 45% when you only have First Order Stormtrooper as the tank instead of crew. JMK does not do super well against Jabba unless you add Echo. So that's one way to beat it. Afra, without some kind of Datacron help, is pretty sketchy. But typically you want B2 in there to keep the buffs off the Jabba team. Sith Eternal and Bane can do it. Kind of sketchy. Very popular counter is Night Sisters. 3v3 and 5v5 alike, but it's a very low win rate. Typically you get down to, most players will get down to just Jabba, and then you'll lose, but you have taken out the whole team at that point. Ahsoka dominates Jabba. Just plain and simple, she just crushes him. Lord Vader is my old school Lord Vader with Maul and Royal Guard, Piet, and Thrawn is my preference. They're pretty good It just depends. You need to try, you kind of want potency on them to try and land it on Krrsantan, and then dispel with Maul's Swipe. And then you can go for Boushh, and it's pretty good from there. Leia can beat him. It's kind of iffy. It's kind of a dance, kind of a race to the ult and all that. But yeah, those are some of the stuff that beats him. Riva is, a decent chance, but not like a lock or anything like that. But other than Afra, when there's like some Datacron support, there's no easy non-GL counter. Night Sisters is very difficult, and a lot of other things are just kind of iffy. And this is completely Datacron supported right now. But those are some GAC counters and offensive options. So here we are on the GoTanks account, trying to demonstrate with a, I have a theoretically worse Jabba team than my main account. I definitely have a worse Krrsantan. Boushh is actually faster on this account. I think my Skiff is actually faster on this account because they're actually more of a priority for me on this account. Jabba's not as fast on this one. In Krrsantan, I'm trying to get started on the right path with tenacity, but anyway. I think this will be a great demonstration. I'm in Squad Arena facing another Jabba. I'm not going to use the Datacron myself because I don't want to cloud what's going on for the whole team. And the opponent doesn't have too much going on. Their Boushh and Skiff are going to be a lot faster, and they have some stats. But I don't have any... There's no effects changing things, so I think it's a great demonstration. Now, their Boushh is 314 speed, so that'll definitely go really fast. Skiff, not too much. And Jabba, my Jabba will go first. And their Krrsantan is all tenacity. But I think it's fine. And this is kind of the advantage. I could hopefully demonstrate the advantage of using manual control. So I'm going to start putting the buff immunity on him. He still is taunting, but I have thermals to attack. They do too, because they cheated and got this Boushh to go first. But I'm trying to get through our... So I think that should have increased his cooldown. Targeting Boushh, yep, increases cooldown, so he can do his own dismember. Really want to go for Boushh as soon as we can, but kind of stuck with the deadly bluff and not allowing attacks out of turn. So that's working on both sides. Theirs can't attack out of turn, ours can't. So let's just use this, get that trusted agent. So he's going to do double attacks when he can. And I'm back to the bomb again. So I'm going to just put it on Boushh, get rid of her. What's it called? There's so many unique buffs involved. Get rid of her hired muscle. And we're gonna get some buffs up on him. And she's got some buffs on her, so I'm gonna take care of those and hopefully kill her, but not quite. And even though they got a head start, my ult is higher. I think it's a good time to pull the bombs. Almost got their Boushh. And now my Boushh is free. She's free from the deadly bluff. She's taken 3 turns. And therefore... Oh, come on, man. Pick her out. We got our contract. Fantastic. So we all got some turn meter. We healed up. Krrsantan has damage immunity. Jabba's got a lot more ult. Life's good. And now everyone that has my kind of scum, I think that's why, I mean, yeah, they're assisting all the time because everyone's got my kind of scum. Yeah, we're just off to the races. I got contract first. I'm fully in control. They had a Datacron. I didn't. They had extra turn meter. They went first. But using the bomb first on Jabba in a mirror match is especially helpful. I'm going to pass this to Boushh because Jabba's about to go anyway. Generally, I prefer passing to Jabba. If I can, I pass to Boushh. It hides her and just gives her more turns. And the insta-kill, can't think of a better target than an enemy Krrsantan. And now we're just good to go. We're going to take out this fat slug. Slowly, but surely. The only problem against the enemy Jabba is thermals aren't really helping as much, so... And this is where Embo tends to help a lot. He just generates a lot more damage. But now that we have done ult, and we have, you know, contract, we're generating ult faster. It's good to do specials because that feeds him more turn meter. So with Jabba, basics are going to give more turn meter or ult charge, but with the rest of the team, specials are. So we're just going to spam specials so everyone else get that ult to land armor shred, because that definitely helps us get through him in the end. Pass to Jabba. I'm going to just do the basic, try to go for it again. Spam specials. Special available there. Got the special. And basic. See, the ult charge goes up so fast. And there we go. I think that's a great demonstration. Can't pick a better one. Within a mirror match, it shows everything on both sides with the target team. So that's it for me. This has been Jabba for Noobs. I know it's a very hefty type of video. Got a lot going on, a lot to cover, but it's a very complex team. So I hope this helps a lot of players that have just got Jabba, or they're trying to understand him and whatnot. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. See you later.